Hope everyone's doing well this morning, afternoon, and evening, depending on where you're logging on from. And we're really excited to be able to live stream this webinar today. So know that you can, at this moment, if you'd like, share the link with your friends. And there will also be a webinar this evening at 7 p.m. that will live stream as well. So thank you for being on, and I'm gonna get us started. So firstly, just from a logistics standpoint, in case this is maybe your first time or you want a refresher, only the panelists can speak since it's a webinar, but we do want to hear from the attendees and welcome your questions throughout the webinar. You can submit that in the chat box. If you do have a question, preferably that you submit it in the Q&A box, because that's where we can actually track those questions and respond to them during the last 10 minutes of our webinar. Our goals today is to share with you how GreenFaith is mobilizing around the Global Climate Action Summit and both our commitments to sustainable living as well as support for greater action and certain commitments from our leaders, political and business leaders from around the world. So I'll share with you a little bit about what the Global Climate Action Summit is and who the folks are on this call who will add to that and share how you can get involved as well and get your faith community involved. So firstly, and just to introduce myself, and my name is Estrella Sainburg, and I'm Organizing Director at GreenFaith. We're an interfaith environmental organization, and we organize and mobilize people of faith, diverse religions and spiritualities around the world for environmental action. The role I play on our team is leading the organizing efforts, and particularly the platform for environmental action with faith communities at the local level called the GreenFaith Circles. I want to recognize at this moment the many difficult challenges facing the U.S., since that's where we're calling out of, facing our country. We await the U.S. Supreme Court decision, Janus versus AFSCME, and we stand with the unions, brothers and sisters. Unions represent working people and the core values we all share and champion together, equity, opportunity, and justice. So we stand with that right now as we seek the decisions coming through. We also recognize humans that are being treated inhumanely along the U.S. border and that seek a safer home. And lastly, for our brothers and sisters around the world, we recognize and stand with the many fights for justice around the world. We know that our fights are interlinked and that we are fellow humans sharing an earth and many fights for justice. So we're speaking today about how to make our environment healthy and how our economy sustainable for all people in all countries. This is the effort that we seek to lead with faith communities at GreenFaith. And for GreenFaith, the earth is sacred. We believe that the next moment that we can stand up in a unified manner around the world is the Global Climate Action Summit taking place from September 12th to 14th. At the subnational leaders from around the globe, including mayors, governors, and leaders from business, finance, and education and civil society are gathering in September in San Francisco for the Global Climate Action Summit. That's what it is. And at this summit, these leaders will present a range of climate change commitments. On today's webinar, we'll hear how people of diverse religions and spiritualities are rising to share with our subnational leaders, those attending and not attending the summit, our deep appreciation for the earth and great concern for how we're treating it. GreenFaith in particular will be marching with allies in San Francisco, around the US, and around the world as a part of a globally distributed mobilization as we pray with our feet. We'll have some folks speaking about that on the webinar today. On September 12th, we'll lift our voices in prayer and song at a glorious multi-faith service in San Francisco's Grace Cathedral. We'll also live stream the service globally and invite people who attend or watch online to keep the living the change and by making a commitment to change their own lives and walk the talk. On September 13th and 14th, we'll take part in the summit itself and show the world that faith and spiritual communities are committed to protecting our common home. We have excellent speakers with us today, so I won't go on much longer. And then these speakers will share with us the different reasons why and ways that we seek to tell our leaders the kind of future that we want to see and the ways that we will walk the talk and are doing so already. Just a heads up, if for any reason you need to step away during the webinar or you know someone that you want to invite onto the webinar, we are doing a second one this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and recording links will be shared for both. And we have different speakers on both, so different stories, but definitely the same message, so don't feel like you need to join both, but that there are different stories being shared on both. So at this time, I'm going to invite Pinaki, the GreenFaith India Director, to share with us why we care about the Global Climate Action Summit. Why we care about that. So Pinaki.
Thank you, Estrella, for the very enlightening introduction, and hello to all of you. I'm very thankful for you for joining us, and yeah, I think I'll just start with a few, like a little history of how faith and climate change came together. And for me personally, it was in 2015 when the encyclical was given by the Pope and Pope Francis, and that was one of the real reasons in terms of the moral and the religious imperative that everybody came together to appreciate the fact that climate change is real, and not only science but faith also has an important role to play in managing, I won't say manage, but yes, to look at climate change at a different perspective. In 2015, there were a lot of things happened. Paris climate change happened, and then it was also the encyclical which came up, and also the World Bank came up with 30 religious leaders to pledge for ending poverty in 2030. Following that, there was a Vatican summit in April 2015, where there were 100 experts, and the then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon was also there, and he stressed the fact that it is important for faith groups and to recognize faith groups to help. The word keep coming up, the managing climate change, but yeah, it's not managing, but yes, to build the movement around climate change. So faith as one of the most important component came up in 2015, and there were a lot of declarations that followed: the Hindu declaration, the Buddhist declaration, the Sikh statement of climate change. So a lot of declarations came up, and that's why it's very important that events like what we will have in San Francisco Bay Area in September, they are going to reaffirm our action that faith groups are an important part of the entire climate change movement. There have been a lot of things which are going on in India as well. So after the 2015, even temples, they were very conservative in conserving environment. At the same time, once they saw that there is a global community on faith coming up for environmental conservation, they pepped up their effort. So they stepped up in doing rainwater harvesting. They stepped up on doing plantation. They stepped up on doing community waste management, decentralized waste management. Because just to share with you people that in temples there is a lot of offerings made to our deities. That offerings are food and milk and water and flowers. One of the important things as a Hindu is we believe that ahimsa is the supreme dharma, which is the act which is why we always have to protect the nature, our Mother Earth. And environment is something which is not external to us, it is an internal thing. So that's why in terms of Hindu scriptures and religious, in terms of our own faith, it is saying that ahimsa is the foremost or the philosophical conservation guidance for making the earth more livable to us. Going forward, in terms of Sikhs, also they also started a movement on bringing their Sikh values on their gurdwaras, the place of worship. They organized organic community langar, which is a kitchen type of thing, and it was never heard before that he will serve organic food to people uh, just to care for our environment and farmers. So they both link towards the farmers and the environment both. In terms of Buddhism, Lord Buddha always said that there is a Mara inside us. The Mara is nothing but a kind of challenge which comes from within you. So you have to subdue the Mara. And for subduing the Mara, you have to take the middle part. So in terms of conservation of environment, there has to be a balance in terms of Buddhism. In terms of Jewish philosophy, most of the Jewish festivals are around the agricultural harvesting times, because they strongly believe that we, the people, are only the guardians of the earth. We are only, and we are the stewards of the earth. So there is always this moral compass which we are talking about. If we fail the moral compass, so the destruction of the earth is inevitable. So in terms of faith, in terms of the moral responsibility, it's already there in our text. It's already there within us. We just need to make a little revision of it, make kind of share these kind of knowledge, the values we take from different people, our community, faith leaders, and then we act on it. So I think in terms of what Estrella also said, that Green Faith, we try to engage more and more community. We try to have what we call a Green Faith circle. And those kind of things are in need of the time, not only for just I would say US, but also for India, also for the world. I would just like to share that even in terms of Islamic teachings, the Hadith says that even if you are on deathbed, you have done a lot of sins, you can get rid of those sins if you plant a tree. So that's the commitment that Quran, the Holy Quran gives an inspiration to conserve the environment. And in terms of in Indian context, several mosques have taken the initiative of going sustainable. For example, they are putting on solar panels. They are switching to different alternate fuels from coal, and they are reaching out to people on Friday prayers through imams. So the moral imperatives are there. They will be there. I think it's more important that we understand and appreciate that faith can be kind of a stronger communication with science to reach out to more and more people. Yeah, I think I'll end my talk here, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Pinaki. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think what I'm really taking away and what we believe at GreenFaith is that many of the world's religions have a value for caring for the earth and for ensuring a healthy environment for all people in all countries. And it's clear that from what you've shared and what we know that many of the world religions have shared a declaration about climate change and even start to put that into practice. And so this is what leads us to care about a moment like political and business leaders coming together this year. So at this time, I want to invite Nana Firman, co-founder of the Global Muslim Climate Network, to share with us about how she's engaging people on the ground in the mobilization leading up to the summit.
Thank you, Estrella, and thank you all other panelists to be sharing this morning, this afternoon, this evening with me. This is very exciting moment. I am actually today on the ground in the San Francisco area, even though we will have like maybe many mobilizations around the globe, but this is the heart of the matter. Like, yeah, this is where the global summit is going to happen. So we're going to have a big mobilization here in San Francisco. And as up to this moment, we have several faith leaders and faith communities already joining us. They're very excited to be part of this. We're still reaching out more and more people of faith in the Bay Area region, which is like San Francisco and the surrounding region. And also we want to engage more with vulnerable communities and frontline communities and people of colors. Those are people who are, like they're in the front line that has been experienced the impact of climate change directly, be it because of the impact of the fossil fuels activities, as well as the impact in terms of the climate itself. Like, as you know, that California has been experiencing a very bad drought for the last few years, and we have a very bad the fire, the wildfires, and as well as we have a problem with our water resources. So this is in the heart of all Californians at this point. And we also very concerned that even though our state, California, is very advanced in terms of dealing with climate change, but we also have our concern for our leaders to take a very strong commitment on fighting climate change, not to deal with, more engaging on the fossil fuel, like establishment, for example. So we want strong commitment on transforming to renewable energy so that everybody can benefit on that. And also not only that, but we want a just transition. So to ensure that everyone is coming on board justly. As we know, there's a lot of also the employee, from the labor movement, for example, working on the fossil fuel industry. We have to also care for them, like how this transition is going to impact them. So as faith communities, faith leaders, I think like we have a very strong position on that, because we can embrace the group that is, very progressive in terms of the transformation onto renewable energy, but also we have people in our congregation on many different faiths that involve on part of the fossil fuel industry, and how can we bring them on board and make them also comfortable, so then it's just for everyone. So we started the big meeting in San Francisco last month, which was attended around 250 people, from different communities in the area. And so today also, this afternoon, is going to be another one. And I've been engaging with the faith communities here in the Bay Area. And we established our mailing list where we can communicate, and also we communicate online, but we are preparing to have like more in-person meetings where we can set up meetings within communities so then they can voice their concern and their ideas. And also, like, probably we have a gathering of faith leaders from different faith communities in the next few months, heading up to the September 8th mobilization, and also like setting up like a few webinars probably to engage more communities. And even if the communities, even the representative that come to this meeting only, for example, like 20 people, doesn't mean it's only 20 people involved, because they are representing their congregation, and their congregation could be like 100, 200, 300. So like it multiplies. So that's basically what we have been engaging in the Bay Area. And then, like, I'm very excited with that. And also, as Pinaki mentioned about the, like, with the Muslim community, like, because this is coming out, this August is the 3rd anniversary of the Islamic Declaration. So I'm working with my colleagues from the Global Muslim Climate Network. How can we bring that, like that commemoration, like that anniversary, into this mobilization as a reminder, as Pinaki mentioned, that, like the mosque starting to do like this transformation to the green mosque or eco mosque. And also, like, we just finished our sacred month of Ramadan, where Green Ramadan is being spread out all over the world now. It's so that this is the good moment for us to remind people again about the climate change, our concern to climate change, and also like how can we do the renewable energy transformation fast and just to everyone. So we are looking for that. And also, I just want to add a little bit, Estrella. So I'm also like engaging with Indonesia because I'm originally from Indonesia. So the Indonesian colleagues are actually like preparing a local workshop at the moment, where they're inviting people from different groups, not only faith groups, but on different sectors also, and working also with local artists, how we can bring that this spirit to like to the form of arts. So I think that's I can end my my share at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. It's really exciting that people will be going to the streets, and really important. And thank you for highlighting why it's so important that we communicate and that we are asking each other what matters to you at this moment in this time, and that we're really preparing and planning ahead of time, because people's concerns and climate change really impacts people in many different ways. So we need to hear those stories and put those concerns and demands at the forefront. And just to be clear, what Nana was referring to here is a march with allies from different sectors that will be happening on September 8th in San Francisco and around the US and world as a part of a globally distributed mobilization. I also want to share that if you, for people that are on today, we want to know how you want to be involved with this. We know that there's different levels that people can commit, but we want to know how you will be a leader for the Global Climate Action Summit. And particularly just on the mobilization piece, we have a Google form that we invite you to fill out, just to let us know where you're at with this, so that we can respond and support accordingly and appropriately. So I'm going to drop right now a link in the chat box, and we'll also share it. And it's also shared already on the Facebook Live feed that we invite you to take. All right, so at this point, let's hear about the another way that GreenFaith's involved with the Global Climate Action Summit and organizing around it. Caroline Bader, the Living the Change Director, is going to be sharing with us about the Living the Change commitments and campaign. Take it away, Caroline.
Thank you, Estrella, and greetings to everyone from Germany. I'm calling in from late evening here. It's great to meet you all, and greetings to all colleagues and friends and everyone who's mobilizing and being aware of the upcoming GCAS. I will share my screen so that you actually can see a little bit about the beautiful campaign that we're inviting you for. Living the Change is a multi-faith sustainable living initiative initiated by GreenFaith and working with a coalition of many different religious institutions and faith partners. And allow me to go a bit into depth on why we have started that and what it means before I will present to you what we will do at GCAS. So as Pinaki and Nana have mentioned already, we are well aware that our common home needs to be taken care of together. And we are actually calling people for starting a journey of making changes in their own life and commit to sustainable living to actually make their contribution and walk the talk and help us limit CO2 emissions and mitigate better to climate change. So we really come to you with an invitation to join us in this adventure and on this journey towards sustainable living. And I will explain a few aspects on why we're called to do that. It starts with our faith. I think it starts with the traditions, with the values that each of us have, no matter which religion we belong to. We all have that same call to protect, be co-stewards, co-creators of creation, Mother Earth, and many other concepts for that. And we think that if we want to think about lifestyle changes, we have to start with our deepest values, our roots, and the connection to the divine. Why do faith communities have such a huge chance in making a difference and making a change? We know that almost 84% of the world's population identify themselves to belonging to a faith community, and also there are houses of worship in nearly every corner of the world, including in the town where you're calling from. We see there is a great potential for leadership and transformation of individual and communal consumption habits in our daily lives and as a community. So we are partnering in this initiative with 8 global actors, which you can see here in the presentation. We have Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and interfaith partners in this initiative. And we're really reaching out to every person of faith on the planet, especially in high-emitting countries, to have more awareness, think about, and make a commitment towards sustainable living. How does my faith motivate me to sustainable living? That's a question that we have asked several faith leaders, and I'm just going to share 3 short stories with you. The first is from a Muslim representative. Our prophet, peace be upon him, is a model of simplicity. One cannot claim to be a true follower if one does not strive to emulate his simplicity in living and doing without much. So Imam Said Shakir is calling for simplicity as our way of living. We have a second representative who says, every thought, word, and action of mine has an impact on myself, other people, and the world. Understanding the law of karma, action and reaction, I aspire to give more than I take, says Sister Jayanti of the Brahma Kumaris. And a third testimony says, in a society that glorifies excess and fears inconvenience, eating a plant-based diet is a simple discipline that keeps me grounded and reminds me to keep making choices that respond to the urgent cries of our earth, our common home, says Sister Christina from the Dominican Sisters. Just 3 examples, and I guess you would have your own answer to that, and I would be actually very curious to know about your motivation for how you live and why you, what's most important in your lifestyle and how you might be ready for changing some things to be more coherent to your values. We also asked, why does it matter? Why does sustainable living matters in the climate crisis and what we see today? And to give you a few talking points, we see that despite the past decade's progress, we're still not on a road to a future with a safe and stable climate. And I think everyone on this call will agree on that. Instead, our current climate trajectory is towards a future where the opportunity for people to flourish is dramatically diminished. Instead, we're actually called to take faithful choices for a flourishing world. We really want through our life to enable everyone to live safe and stable and to live a flourishing life in a flourishing world. And that is why we invite people of faith to make a pledge and to change their personal lifestyles and help ensure a 1.5 degrees Celsius future. There are some personal lifestyle changes that are most effective, and those are in 3 areas that we call high impact areas. That is transportation, energy use, and diet. So those 3 areas make the biggest difference in our own personal life, and if we think about scale, at a global scale as well. Because each of these 3 areas represent an opportunity to save more than 0.8 tons of CO2 emissions per capita per year. That's a lot. And if we add up the numbers that we heard earlier of how many people belong to a community of faith, there's real hope, actually. I want to show you a graph which illustrates that nicely. I hope you can all see it. So if you compare different actions of people in their daily life, and you compare, for example, upgrading light bulbs, hang dry clothes, recycle, wash clothes in cold water, all important actions, but they don't have such a high impact, like, for example, eating a plant-based diet, switching your electric car to a car-free life, switching to green energy. Avoiding one transatlantic flight can save up to 1.8 tons CO2 emissions. So if you think about your flights that you're taking, only reducing one can have much more impact than upgrading your light bulbs. And the biggest impact that we've found is living car-free. So that, and there are many other options to that. So just hoping to stimulate your thoughts with those graphs. We know that change is possible, and we want to invite you to do that. And we also want to invite you to start living the change before and during the Global Climate Action Summit. And I think it's a great momentum for us as a faith community to come to stage, so to say. And what we're planning is to be part of the multi-faith service in San Francisco, and also with a live stream, where we will share and celebrate our Living the Change commitments as part of a global multi-faith community. We'll receive video messages from the Dalai Lama, Patriarch Bartholomew, and the Episcopal Presiding Bishop Michael Curry that some of you might remember, those of you who watch royal weddings, I don't know. And we really want to show the leaders gathered at the Global Climate Action Summit that people of faith and spirit are leading by example and leading at scale. And that's really key. And that's the changes we want to make in our own lives, leading by example and together leading at scale. This multi-faith service will take place on Wednesday, 12th of September at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. And in parallel, we will offer a live stream via Living the Change, where you can follow the service, you can make your commitment during that service, and you can even interact with service participants during this hour. For that, we have offered, or we are offering for you to register yourself already on our website, livingthechange.net. You will find possibility to reserve a seat in the cathedral if you happen to be in San Francisco, or to sign up for the live stream if you want to follow the service from another place on this earth. The co-sponsoring organizations of this multi-faith service are mentioned here. You may recognize some of them. And finally, I just want to say that there are several opportunities to engage on Living the Change as a global community. The first big moment is, of course, the Global Climate Action Summit. The next one will be in October, where we invite local communities into a global week of Living the Change with globally distributed events. And in November, we'll be part of the Parliament of World Religions with many, many religious leaders, where we will also invite for making commitments to living the change and sustainable lifestyles. How can you get involved? You can see this list. We really invite you to inform yourself, talk to others about sustainable living, take the commitment for living the change, and do that before GCAS so that we can really present your voices and the aggregated number of voices to leaders at GCAS. That will be a very important moment. You can support us in your social media activities. We invite you to share your story of change with us. I've mentioned 3 short stories. We would really love to hear how sustainable living changes your life. And you can become an organizer for our Global Week in October. You can even become an implementing partner organization. My contacts are below. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen and to being invited to Living the Change. Thank you.
Caroline, thank you so much. It's really important what you're doing, and I saw that someone asked about sharing the 3 levels of climate effects that our lifestyles can affect, and so I'm pretty sure we can share that afterward, Caroline, right?
I will also share the link of the website now, so you can see it already.
Yep. All right. Are you okay? I'm going to share it. There we go. 2 people have shared it. And yeah, I also want to recognize that we have folks from around the world joining this call. Caroline's both the panelists and attendees. I saw that someone's calling in from Nigeria earlier, so hello. And Caroline's calling in from Germany or wherever you are in Europe right now. I'm not sure. So really exciting that and important that we take a global approach to our climate change problems and the just transition that we seek, and are trying to call into effect. At the Grace Cathedral, in addition to the multi-faith service happening on the 12th, on September 13th and 14th, GreenFaith and some partner faith organizations will be hosting workshops that people can attend in person. If you happen to be in California or you plan to be going to the summit or any other events in San Francisco, you can register for those workshops and find out more about those workshops on the livingthechangenet.net website. That information will be on there soon, but just know that there's some other workshops as well that people can participate in at the Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. At this time, I'd like to invite Annalisa Freitas, who is the PCM, who's the PCM 2018 campaign coordinator, and she'll tell us about the People's Climate Movement and the Rise for Climate mobilization.
Hey everyone, how are you all doing? I hope everyone's having a really great afternoon, morning, night. I know everyone's in different places, so really appreciate you all again for tuning in. I'm going to try to keep this very brief, but as Estrella mentioned, my name is Annalisa. I am PCM's 2018 campaign coordinator, and our big focus right now is a part of PCM's 2018 campaign work, which is from now through the end of the year, midterm elections. We're focusing really on getting folks prepared for our Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice national mobilization. And I think that you all have heard some pieces of this throughout the webinar. Everyone has spoken to the importance of taking action, putting our faith into action, making sure that we are living the change. I love that so much. I think that's extremely important. So this is one of the greatest opportunities that we all have in the US and also across the world to come together and really declare that people of faith are rising up, and that we're not only talking about climate, but we're really talking about what it means to be a part of humanity, and making sure, I think, as Nana was mentioning before, that we're not only talking about natural resources, we're talking about the industry, we're talking about workers, we're talking about ministers, we're talking about all the people that are impacted by what is happening currently on the planet and what type of policies are being put in place and also repealed that are stripping away all the protections in place to make sure that we have a place to live now and in the future and for our generations to come. So thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak to you all. Really quick introduction to myself. I actually came up through faith-based organizing. I was originally trained through the PICO model. If many of you may be familiar with that model, PICO, which is now Faith in Action National, and have done organizing with them on the East Coast and on the West Coast. And I've also constantly found myself as a woman of color at the intersection of environmental justice, environmental policy, and advocacy. So this is very personal to me. I grew up in a community that was very agriculturally based. a lot of migrant workers, a lot of farm workers. The impacts of climate were very real because we could see it at the food on our table. So I know many of all come to the climate movement in different ways, whether it's a personal experience or whether it's through your faith tradition or other ways. This is all welcome. People's Climate Movement is really making sure that we have a space, that we have a platform for whoever you are, wherever you are, that you can be a part of this movement. So really making sure that we're moving from the People's Climate March, which happened the first time back in 2014, into the People's Climate Movement. And the reason that we really want to take our momentum from the moment to a movement is because, as you all know, the clock is ticking here. We really have a lot of work on our plate to make sure, like as I mentioned, that we can protect each other, that we can protect our resources, and that we can continue to have a livable future. And I see our faith community as a huge part of that. I think in this movement, we're really looking to make sure that people are speaking truth to power. And who better to do that than you all? You all as people that have this innate connection to your spirituality, to the planet around you, to the people that you feel a moral imperative to take care of. This is our moment. This is our moment once again to make sure that our voices are loud and clear. Whether it's social justice ministry or dharma or tikkun olam, or however you see your faith being put into action, this is the moment for it to happen. And that moment is, as I mentioned, we're organizing together around September 8th. And that mobilization is Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice. So I'm pretty bad at dropping links in and speaking simultaneously. So I'm going to ask Estrella to drop in, again, the Take Action link at peoplesclimate.org, our website, where you can see our map of actions that are happening in the United States. You can also make sure that if there's not an action happening locally, that you can host one. We would absolutely love for you all to take up the mantle in that way and make sure that you're encouraging other people in your communities to take action together. We really want to make sure that it's not just people of faith acting alone, or that it's not just environmentalists acting alone, but that we're acting together, that we're reaching out to, I think as Nana was mentioning as well, people from other sectors, from the labor industry, from environmental justice groups, racial justice groups, economic justice groups. Every community member is important. For me, as an SGI Buddhist, we say that every single person in society is important. And I think that is no more true than in this mobilization on September 8th as well. Every single person is important. So make sure you talk to your minister. If you're a minister, talk to every congregant. If you're a congregant, talk to your fellow congregants. If you're another person of faith, talk to your neighbors. This is really the moment to make sure that we're reaching every single person so that we can come together and ask and hold our leaders accountable to renewable energy promises, to making sure that they're looking towards a just transition, to make sure that they're actually making good on any previous commitments that they've made, or that they're making any commitments that they've made even stronger. So I think, like I said, the main asks is go take the pledge to take action for climate, jobs, and justice at peoplesclimate.org. Make sure that you all are looking to see where you can either support current actions or start your own. I think both GreenFaith and People's Climate will be supporting you all through the process of hosting an action. And I think as well, the second piece I would like to turn over to our Arts and Culture Organizing Coordinator, Ingrid Haftel, is really making sure that as people of faith, you have that distinctive identity in this movement. We're really looking to tell stories, to bring culture, to bring spirituality, to bring that truth telling into this movement, whereas other people may feel limited by a 501c3 or by any other type of limitations. We really want to use this moment to have introspection and to call people forth on their morality, on their values, and really making sure they're living that as much as in their personal life as in public policy. So to share a little bit more about how People of Faith and Arts and Culture works into the National Day of Action on September 8th, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Ingrid Haftel, who is our Arts and Culture Organizing Coordinator.
All right. Thank you so much, Annalisa. Hello, everyone. I am delighted to be joining you this afternoon. Yes, arts and culture. So you just heard Annalisa speak powerfully about what an inclusive movement, how important it is to make sure that we're building an inclusive movement and making sure that the communities of faith who are organizing, your identities and the images, music, poetry, songs, installations, everything that can communicate that art and culture and that perspective, that there's space for it. And so my job as the Arts and Cultural Organizing Coordinator is to really make sure that PCM is bringing the support and resources to you all to do that. And so that means everything. I will share my screen here really quickly to show you some beautiful images from last year's mobilization in Washington, D.C. And I know that, you know, GreenFaith and many communities of faith played a critical role in making sure that this theme of Keepers of Faith was visible in the mobilization. So just some beautiful images to share to kind of show what the art and culture looked like last year and how that was visible in the mobilization to give you some inspiration. So again, we're talking about things like posters and visuals for mobilization, right? That's absolutely part of what PCM can either coordinate or make sure that if you have artists in your community who want to plug in and do that, that they can get the resources they need and we can amplify that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link into the chat right now that will give you a selection of posters. We have posters in English and Spanish, soon to have posters in Chinese from a variety of wonderful artists. On this evening's call, folks will actually hear from Adrian Fillinger-Gann, who's a faith-based artist who did work for PCM last year and is creating some really beautiful faith-based imagery for our mobilization this year. And we need more artists. We need more folks who want to share those skills. And again, not just in the visual arts, we're looking for musicians, performers, anything you can think of. And so in terms of the support and resources that PCM can provide, again, that it's both connecting communities to artists, but also amplifying the work of artists in your communities. And then also making sure that you have the resources and tools to create art. So if we're creating toolkits right now that can teach you how to screen print a poster, how to make a parachute banner, all of those things. If those are toolkits and resources that can help you make and create art, or if there are things that you want to share with others, we are a network for sharing out that information. And I am an individual who is happy to be a resource to you all. So if you, after this call, want to get in touch and talk about opportunities for sharing or getting connected to arts and cultural resources for this mobilization and beyond, send me an email and I would be delighted to talk. We want to make sure that the network of artists and cultural producers that we're working with is diverse, reflects the inclusiveness of the movement. So I invite you to email me and let's talk. Thank you so much. I think I will pass it back to Estrella. It's been a pleasure joining you.
Thank you, Ingrid, so much. Arts are in music and are an incredibly important way to communicate a message and a way to express our religious beliefs as well as culture and concerns. So thank you. We'll share your email and an email afterward, email address and an email afterward, as well as everyone else's email address. We have had, we've heard about a lot, but I hope that everyone can see why we at GreenFaith find the Global Climate Action Summit so important, and how in the different ways that we're participating and in the summit, as well as showing to our leaders that are attending and not attending that we want to see real climate action, real climate solutions, and that for those policies and plans to get going, if we're truly still in, as we've been saying in the past year. I want to invite one second. Yeah, so we've had some great speakers. Thank you. Thanks to the audience for being on. We have a few moments now for questions that have come in. And so if you have questions, please put them into the question and answer box or into the chat box. And just looking through some questions. For any of the panelists, if you have a question for a specific panelist, please indicate that. Or if a general one, then that's fine too. So I see that the question for Reverend Simon was answered. Is that right, Annalisa? Okay, so we had a question about attending the summit and whether there's a fee to attend. Would anyone be able to speak to that?
I'm going to share my knowledge unless anyone else wants to. So, yeah, so I was, for those that perhaps are on the phone or those that are not watching the chat box, I just responded to the question around GCAS and attending. To be quite honest, so PCM has been involved with some of the hosts of GCAS, namely the Office of Governor Brown, and we've been working with their staff to get some more information and to potentially make sure that our messaging from our frontline communities around equity and economic justice and racial justice when it comes to climate policies is a huge part of the summit, because it has seemed at this point that has been a lesser focus of the summit. That's a hugely important principle to PCM's work. So that's just a little bit of the context of why and how we've been speaking with the office. As a part of that conversation, we were working with also USCAN, who's one of our core partners, along with GreenFaith, to secure some passes to the summit. As I shared with Reverend Simon, unfortunately that deadline has passed for the collection of names. I did just tap my colleague at USCAN to check if there might be any extra signups available. I can't promise anything, but I'm more than happy to share back with Estrella and other folks at GreenFaith, so you all can potentially get that information post this webinar if I don't get it in the next several minutes. In the meantime, I would suggest that folks go to the GCAS website. If you just Google Global Climate Action Summit, the website will pop up, and there's a link, and it's globalclimateactionsummit.org/stay-updated. And if you go there, there should be a spot where you can indicate that you're interested in attending the summit. From what we know, this potentially is not also a guarantee to attend the summit, but it's probably the best bet for now. And then the third option is, please feel free to contact me. Our core decision-making body, which GreenFaith is a part of, called the Movement Support Team, or the MST to PCM. We had a discussion this past week and decided that we would also be the conduit for any types of referrals between organizations and the governor's office, just so we could keep the lines of communication open. I would like to be clear, just in case there's a question, that we're not necessarily working hand in hand with the office to develop the agenda. That's something that the office is handling themselves, as well as the RSVP list. But again, we are making sure that we're doing our best to just keep transparent communication open, so that people can participate in the ways that they would like to individually or as their own organizations, and less as a part of the PCM coalition. So all that to say, if you'd like some more direct contact, please email me. My email is afreitas@peoplesclimate.org. That's AFREITAS@peoplesclimate.org, and just make sure that you send me a quick note about what you're interested as far as either more information or attending the summit.
Thanks, Annalisa. It sounds like there's a few options there, and we really appreciate your willingness to communicate with people, and also emphasize people checking out the summit's website. We had a great question. Speaking of links, oh, Nana, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to add from Annalisa that for people who, who cannot attend the summit, for example, for any other reason because of the limitation, remember that there's going to be like hundreds of events and activities throughout San Francisco area at that week. So don't be discouraged, please check out. I think they list out in the Global Climate Action Summit website for all other activities around the region.
Very great to hear. And Annalisa, yes?
Yeah, thanks so much, Nana, for mentioning that. That's hugely important, is that all the work that you and others are putting into the external activities around the summit and during the summit. I also wanted to mention that PCM is currently building up a calendar of actions that are happening from our many, many partners from the many sectors of work that they're all leading. So we're also hoping to publish that in the coming week or potentially weeks, maybe in the next 2 weeks. But we are starting to build up that calendar. And so hopefully we'll also be able to make that available to you all. It should eventually be up on our peoplesclimate.org website. But we currently are starting to track those actions. So also if you all or your organizations are planning an affiliated action around GCAS, please do also contact me so I can send you the tracker where we're starting to collect those actions. And then we'll make sure to get those out to you all publicly as well.
That's super helpful. Thanks, Annalisa, and the PCM team for organizing that. We have a couple really great questions that have come in. One, in terms of the links and the information some of the information that was shared today. We will be in. Some people want to amplify this. They said to their network. Awesome. Yes, please do. And we will be sharing the links most likely tomorrow morning, and as well as the emails, and invite you to participate. There's many ways also to stay connected with us and not just share links with people, but also make sure that people have the support in the organizing community around them to participate. And someone asked if faith leaders will be leading the multi-faith service on September, I think 12th, they're saying are set, and whether there's a Buddhist community member already set to speak that day. Caroline, would you be able to speak to this?
Yes, I can. I have just answered in the chat bar as well. So for participation in the service, we really invite broadly, and we do that through our registration page, which has only opened last week. So it's really, for first come, first serve. There are 900 places, and we really hope that it will be a diverse range of faith representatives and faith communities being there. When it comes to the liturgy of the service or the speakers during the service, there's an interfaith steering committee preparing for that, and we're well aware that we want to make sure that every major religious community is present and represented. So there will be a Buddhist speaker in the service as well. I cannot tell the details at this point, but you will get to know soon.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Don't see any more questions in here right now. Let's see. Any other panelists have something to share? Well, yes, Annalisa.
I also just wanted to share a couple things regarding September 8th, which is the National Mobilization Rise for Climate Jobs and Justice, which is the weekend before the Global Climate Action Summit in California. Again, I just wanted to emphasize that that day is really meant for across the nation. You don't have to be in California to be participating. I think Ingrid was speaking to that as well. This is really the day where you can plug into distributed actions across the nation. And I think for those that are on the phone and that have state-based affiliates, like if you're either a member of one or if you're a director of one, or directors of ones, I'm definitely encouraging you all as well to either contact me or go on our website and sign up, or contact us today. Any of those options are great options to get some further information, to get involved, again, in either already existing tables of groups that are starting to form actions, or to start your own action. I think that that's going to be hugely important, is to make sure that we have all of the faith-based organizations, not just those that are focused on environmental action, but really taking this as a moment to think through how we can show solidarity to one another in our movements. I think many of all, as Estrella so beautifully put forth at the top of our call, that there's so many issues happening in the world right now that are of huge importance and huge urgency, including climate change, and we really want to honor that. So as much as we're showing up to these actions and making connections, we're also inviting people into solidarity with us as well, for not just this mobilization, but for the long term. So again, this September 8th mobilization, it's the weekend before GCAS, but it's also several weeks before, a month and a half before our election season, making sure people are getting out to vote, making sure that we're also, again, holding our electeds accountable to the action that they've taken or perhaps not taken at the summit. So I just wanted to, again, make sure that folks are thinking about ways that we're connecting now and for the long run. And then I think I just wanted to mention too, there's going to be some increased digital hubs that we're going to be building out. I think in the past, for those that are familiar with People's Climate Movement and People's Climate March, we've all probably seen our organizing hubs digitally, and hugs too, on the website. We'll be updating that also in the next couple of weeks. But I also was doing kind of Facebook skimming, and I know that there's some Facebook groups for people of faith for Clean Energy Revolution, people of faith in the People's Climate March, that have had a slower amount of activity. So I also encourage you all, if you're looking for like the kind of national community in addition to your local community, that might be a great place to start. I would love to see some action popping up there as well. So it'd be really great if you all wanted to just like plug those into your Facebook and social media pages and see if you can at minimum start the conversation there.
Thanks, Annalisa. Really important. We invite people to learn more, inform yourselves, and commit to participating in the mobilization as well as the multi-faith service and the side events happening in San Francisco if you will be there in person. We hope that this is the beginning of a conversation between now and September and the summit. There's 11 weeks left, and so we can do this, and it's going to be really great. Again, there's a webinar happening again this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we look forward to speaking with many of you between now and the summit and beyond that. Thank you so much to everyone who joined and to the panelists for speaking. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. That's all for now. Thank you.